Who was here last night then? Yeah. What are we thinking now that we've had a night to think about it? Was it a better version of Transformers? No. There was a few yeses. There was a few yeses in that crowd. All right. Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe if you have a bit more context for what you had last night, we, Chris and Jim, dropped a few little teasers, which they will expand upon over the course of the next 90 minutes. Yes, 90 minutes, because that's how much material we have. So, I'm not going to waste any more time. Give Chris McFeely and Jim Sorensen a big round of applause.
It's a long panel, Jim.
It's a long panel. I think we start standing.
Let's bring the standing energy.
Yeah, standing energy.
Okay. Well, I got the clicker here. Okay, I'm fine with it tonight. Because there's no big spoilers to ruin by pressing the wrong button at the wrong time. Okay, so who was here last night? Okay. Now, who wasn't here last night? So, right. So we're going to start from the start again. Anyway.
Yeah, well, last night we did a radio play of A Robot's Best Friend is His Dog, which was an unproduced TV pilot for a network version of Transformers Season 1. A CBS network version written by Jeffrey Scott. And it's very different than the first episode of Season 1 that we got, Divide and Conquer. Should we start by...
to Oblivion. Bad start, Jim.
Start off on a stumble. But should we explain exactly what Season 1 is?
Let me see what we got on the first slide here for some context. Okay, we got the handwritten notes.
Yeah, there you go. Now, as you can see, this is very clear.
This is how deep we're getting on this. So let's take it back right. It is February 1984. Production of the three-part miniseries, More Than Meets the Eye, the original three-part Transformers cartoon story, that has begun. The writer of that, George Arthur Bloom, has delivered the first episode script on the 8th of February. 1 week later, Toy Fair happens, and Hasbro revealed the Transformers toy line to retailers.
And retailers go bonkers. It is immediately clear that Transformers is the toy line to beat in 1984. The orders are crazy, and Hasbro realizes immediately they have a hit on their hands, and they start getting more ambitious.
They know they're going to do more in 85, so instantly they start planning out for that. That's why Shockwave makes it into the first episode of More Than Meets the Eye. They immediately start revising what they have. But even before Toy Fair is over, they know they want a full 13-episode weekly season to follow up the 3-episode pilot.
And I do think it's worth noting, because I think it's really easy today, 40-odd years on, to think of Transformers Season 1 as the 16 episodes that begins with More Than Meets the Eye Part 1 and runs through the end of Heavy Metal War. I got that one right.
Yes.
But it really wasn't. The first 3 parts were conceived and produced separately and at a much earlier time. Much earlier.
Something that will shock you as we go through this.
Is the timeline.
How fast creation and production on this.
I mean, how long did it take them to start working on the movie? I mean, that was 84 as well.
I think it was August 84, I think we tracked that.
Yeah, so 6 months after this, they're working on the movie.
Because they've already finished all of Season 1 by that.
Because it's crazy how fast they're moving. But they had some debate over whether or not they wanted to continue with the syndicated model that the first 3-part miniseries would be produced in, or if they'd go in a more traditional, higher reach, higher prestige network format.
So should we explain network and syndication again?
I think we should.
Yeah. So syndication means that Hasbro and Marvel Productions and Sunbow's name doesn't really come up in any of these documents, but Griffin and McCall's name are there, so I do assume Sunbow would have been involved in this. That means they produced the show independently, and then it's on them to sell it to independent TV stations around America, going door to door, station to station. Do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? It's a lot of work.
And they did a good job. I saw documents that showed 84% coverage, which is really good. But
which is to say 85% of the major markets around America, they got stations in those areas to buy.
But it would all be at a different time. It might be 7:30 a.m. in New York, but 7 a.m. in Los Angeles. Whereas at a network, they'd have a certain consistency.
Yeah, and but making it with the network means that the network helps co-produce it, and the network does have a say in the content of the program.
Because they're paying for part of it.
But it means it's got, there's more money in it, but it's wider reach, and it's a national network, so it will air on one channel all around the country versus the much more laborious process of having to sell into syndication station by station. So it's easy to see why, because syndication was quite, well, it wasn't new, but the idea of syndicated cartoons was really only coming in.
Well, and that was, I mean, and we're here to go in the weeds. So that was because Ronald Reagan deregulated the marketplace. And that's why we started to get toy cartoons at all, as opposed to...
Like old syndication, there's two types of syndication, of course, because when a TV program that runs on a network hits a certain number of episodes, the network can then syndicate that show by selling it out to other shows to show on repeat while they take it off their timetable and air other programs. And there's what Transformers was, and all these, and He-Man, Inspector Gadget, all the many great toy entertainment shows of the 80s. It's what's called first-run syndication, which is where they make it and sell it into syndication directly.
And I want to talk about format really quickly for this panel, because last night I saw some hands go up and we said, you know, we're not taking questions just because we didn't have time. But for this panel, we are intending to go as deep as possible. So if you have a question about something that we're saying, honestly, feel free to throw up your hands, and it will not derail the panel. We might say, oh, we'll get to that in 10 minutes, but you know, we want to give you guys the information you want. So if something we're saying is unclear, or you have something that you want clarification on, please raise that hand, and we'd be happy. Already we got one. Shout it out.
What does the movie Gremlins have to do with it?
What does the movie Gremlins have to do? What an excellent question.
So, before Toy Fair is even over, they're on this track to make a 13-episode series. And they decide they're going to try doing it with the network. They're going to try doing it with CBS, who were at the time the premier children's animation broadcaster, network broadcasters. And they commissioned a writer called Jeffrey Scott, who at this point had done a couple of episodes of Dungeons and Dragons for Marvel Productions, which was another network show that they'd done with CBS. And you can see, hey, how legible is this? Because we can turn these lights down a bit probably if we need to.
Can you guys read this? Maybe we can get the lights down for us.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter if you can't see us as far as we're concerned. As long as we can see to put one foot in front of the other, I think we'll be all right. But, so what I was leading in to point out here is February 22nd. I think that was maybe the last day of Toy Fair. February 22nd, Jeffrey Scott gets on a call with, what was hidden over here? With Marvel Productions, Vice President of Network Show Development, Network Animation Development, Hank Soroyan. And we've used Jeffrey Scott's name to refer to a lot of this stuff over the years, but based on these documents, it seems like Soroyan had just as much input on what the ideas were.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think this was all discussed with Soroyan, but you know, these are some notes on 3 other cartoons that did not happen. A cartoon about Marsupilami, which was a European bande dessinée comic. That's a...
The Right Stuff?
A cartoon about the right stuff.
Yeah, astronauts.
And Astro Snicks, which is another kind of European Smurfy, snorky thing, which was quite big, but didn't have a cartoon. None of these things ever happened, including these notes at the very bottom about Transformers. And I asked, what does Gremlins have to do with it? Not sure, to be honest. Call WB re-movie Gremlins. I don't know, maybe they were working on the Gremlins thing as well.
We got another question in the middle. Shout it loud.
Who's Jack Wood? He seems important.
Where's that?
Up there.
Oh, Jack Wood. That's in regards to probably, it could be in regards to Marsupilami, or it could be just something unrelated. It might be completely unrelated to any of this. All that's really relevant to Transformers, as far as we're absolutely sure, is what's below this line and this comment here.
Yeah, Carl Griffin Bacall seems pretty relevant. You have another question?
Do we know why Hasbro chose to go with the version we've got rather than...
Well, that's the end of panel talk.
And the answer is we don't know, but we...
Fundamentally, yeah.
But we can speculate. Sorry, in the right. Yeah, you...
I'm guessing that the bit about Paul and Jack Wood to do with the bit about Paul and Griffin before, because of an arrow between them.
There is an arrow, but I don't know the name Jack Wood. But it goes Astro Snicks across artwork to be defined, and then the upwards arrow to call Jack Wood, so it could be to do with Astro Snicks to...
You told us the origin of all the new characters. Do we know why the writer of this chose like Trailbreaker, Jazz,
I mean, they don't spell out why, but we kind of do have a sense. It's our own speculation, but I think it's pretty solid. We're
going to go chronologically through all of this. Let's crack on with this part here.
Yeah. We'll keep going for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, so these are all the handwritten notes about the ideas that they have for the first Bible. Let's see what else we got here, because we can move on to the first Bible. Oh yeah, okay, so we're just talking about the story here. So the big and most important thing to understand about this first draft Bible idea is that they ignore, they either ignore or do not have access to everything Jim Shooter and Bob Budiansky have done at Marvel Comics.
Yeah, so it's a really, a lot of the ideas from the second Bible will originate in the first one, but a lot of them also won't.
Now Jim Shooter on his blog many years ago, and some of this may sound familiar to you, told a story about how at this point in time, Marvel Productions and Marvel Comics, which are two different companies owned by the same parent company, Cadence, didn't like each other. They didn't get on. Shooter says that the head of Marvel Productions, David Tapati, thought that they were, and I quote him here, I'm not putting words in his mouth, Tapati thought that the people at Marvel Comics were amateurish morons who produced garbage. So they, at one point, not long beforehand, was it late 82 or 83, a company called Knickerbocker Toys was developing a toy line called Mysterians. And we later discovered that some of the toys that were intended to be Mysterians apparently became the mini-bots from the first year of Transformers. That's not really relevant to this. What happened was, Shooter and Marvel Comics developed a treatment, a backstory for the premise, for the series, for the toy line from Mysterians. And Marvel Productions ignored it and came up with their own original thing. So there was this real friction. And it turns out, exactly the same thing happened with Transformers.
Yeah, and they had this idea that, Jeffrey Scott and
Soren
had the idea that the Transformers have actually been on Earth for quite a long time, for decades, and that they are responsible for a lot of the sort of mysterious happenings. And the Decepticons were going to be based in the Bermuda Triangle.
Because, they ignored it. So in this version, all we've got, the names and alternate modes are the same, bar one example, which we'll come to. And the Autobots and Decepticons exist. But in this version, the Autobots and Decepticons are robots who do not transform, who come from an unnamed planet. They fully ignored all of Shooter's stuff with Cybertron, the Ark, the volcano crash, the
Well, again, perhaps didn't even have access to it.
Or didn't have, I'm inclined to think,
You're inclined
to think ignored on that front. It seems like maybe he didn't have access to the Budiansky profiles, but I'm inclined to think ignored in the case of the Shooter stuff, just based on Shooter's own testimony. That is one man's testimony, so, but I do believe it. So, back here, maybe we can see in these earlier notes. So, we do have the idea that they were at war for generations, until the Autobots won the war and killed all the Decepticons.
Yeah, and the Decepticons fled.
They didn't die and then flee. It was destroying their bodies, did not destroy them.
Yeah, there was a core sort of energy of them that found a mechanical rich world.
Yes, their life forces, in the forms of glowing orbs of energy, left the shattered remains of their bodies and fled into space to seek new worlds and new machines to take as their new bodies.
It sounds like a Brave series.
It sounds exactly like Brave X-Kaiser, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. We do have a question.
Kind of reminds me of George Starscream, you know, how he was close
Yeah.
to space.
Well, I mean, honestly, this idea is very similar to Sparks.
Yeah, orbs of energy specifically.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, if there's a through line to all of this, what's most fascinating about all of this is how so many writers would come to many of these individual ideas independently in years and decades after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, I put up a picture of the Decepticons Bermuda base for the same reason, because it's like, oh, the Decepticons are based in the Bermuda Triangle, and actually that idea was specifically attributed to Marvel.
Yes, and that's Saroyan and Scott, as it were. So that these energy orb Decepticons come to Earth, they hide themselves beneath the Bermuda Triangle in the 30s, and they spend decades surreptitiously, slowly, sneakily, one by one, stealing Earth vehicles to become their new bodies. Because what happens is, an energy orb enters a vehicle, an Earth machine, and it reformats it into a new body for the Decepticon to inhabit.
Like the Combaticons.
Like the Allspark.
Sure.
These ideas is good.
We have a question in the front row.
It actually sounds...
Oh, behind you.
This is regarding the first page, but why is Danny DeVito's name on the top?
Oh yeah, I think that was because they were looking at, Marcel Bellamy, Danny DeVito, or Reverend Jim being a character from the 70s sitcom Taxi. So I guess these were just character references that they were thinking of. I don't think that, maybe they genuinely wanted to cast Danny DeVito or Christopher Lloyd as Marcel Bellamy. But listen, we got 90 minutes, we can't stand here talking about Marcel Bellamy. So these steady thefts of planes and ships are, the source of the mystery surrounding the Bermuda Triangle. Planes that disappear, ships that sink. And that takes us to the end of those notes. Let's see what's next. Oh, so these are more handwritten. So he has that original. That's the first conference call with Hank Soroy on the 22nd. Same day then, he starts writing all this up, getting a few more ideas out. He's got the names, he's got the alternate notes from Hasbro, Megatron, Commander Optimus Prime,
Decepticon planes with the
bad guys. And then these blue notes appear to be some later thoughts he adds, just about ways to tie all these ideas together.
And I do want to say, it's kind of amazing that we went from knowing almost nothing. We knew a title, and that was about it for decades. And to go from that, like in all one fell swoop, two really, but yeah, I got them in 2 blocks, but to go from that to like, oh, we have the script, we have 2 different Bibles, and we have all the notes that explain why the Bibles are the way they are. I mean, as the historian in me just thinks that's amazing. I mean, it's really hard to overstate how much we know now versus how little we knew a year ago.
We knew this existed when Bryce Malek, who was one of the story editors of the cartoon as produced, mentioned that it existed in an interview on a website 25 years ago.
2001. This is fun. Megatron, full leader, P-38, particle beam cannon.
Yeah.
CBS already knows they don't want to do a gun.
So, as we say, the names and the alternate modes are the same, but there are little tweaks like that. So you have the simple idea that, and let me see if we got the actual Bible pages here, which I think we're going to probably click onto them. These are just more notes of the same sort of stuff we're going to talk about.
Yeah. And again, all of this is available to download.
Yes, it's all
So if you want to see more, it's all there, full definition.
So within 3 days, he turns those handwritten notes into a full Bible draft. And he writes it up in a very fun way.
Yeah, I kind of love this. News item, Air Force pilot ditches jet after contact with UFO.
News item, Navy jet disappears over Bermuda Triangle.
Look at the dates, too, 1979, 1982. Again, leading to the idea that the Decepticons have been here for a while.
One by one, little by little. And this is the one that I love, because these are just about, disappearing jets. And so
Living ball of light.
And you can tell how that's The Seekers, as we know them. News item, Soviets lose top secret particle beam cannon. Moscow, February 12th, 1984. The US Embassy in Moscow has learned that the Soviets' top secret particle beam has vanished while being transported to its testing site. Technicians on the train said that the weapon disappeared after being struck by what was believed to be ball lightning. The Soviet UJs and CTAS would not ... tracking on.
And I gotta say, what a pro. I mean, this is, how many pages is the Bible? About 25?
20 something, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in 3 days, and they're good. This is a solid Bible.
Yeah, it's got a fascinating idea at the core of it. It's just not the story Marvel had paid the story Hasbro had paid Marvel Comics to create for them.
Yeah, maybe a bit of sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah. In the case of Megatron particularly, particle beam cannon, but his bio does explain he can turn into a full-size version of this weapon or shrink to a version that can be handheld. So they've got, they can tie in with the toy, it's all good. What's next thing here? This is the backstory I was just explaining previously.
Billions of light years away on the opposite end of the galaxy, solar system, much like our own, spins around a dense neutron star. Only one of the 14 planets in this system is inhabited with life, but not the kind of life we have come to understand. Due to the extreme gravity of the system's sun, the evolution of life did not move through the stages of flesh and blood. Instead, the dense matter was animated by a life force that evolved into mechanized forms beyond anything we can imagine.
How does the science check out on that one, Jim?
Oh, well, as a particle physicist myself, I can say that this is exactly how life evolves on the planets. 95% accuracy.
So this is the backstory that we were just explaining there. Decepticons defeated in the war come to Earth and possess Earth's machines. The Autobots catch wind of the same and come to Earth themselves. And it seems that one piece of art was produced to go along with this first draft Bible.
Yeah, we showed this last night.
Yes.
You can see Matt Conroy in there, although he wasn't called Matt Conroy at this point.
Yeah. So one of the big things about the big step that was made here was that the casts were pared down to about a half a dozen on each side. The Decepticons, there weren't many Decepticons to start with, so you've got Megatron, Soundwave, Thundercracker, Skywolf, Starscream, and Buzzsaw, and they don't mention any of the other cassettes, so those are just going to be our 6 Decepticons. And on the Autobot side, Optimus, Mirage, Jazz, Trailbreaker, Sideswipe, and Bumblebee. In the notes, Comic Relief, Volkswagen Autobot, Bumblebee. They know what his name is. They know what his name's supposed to be.
But Jeffrey Scott didn't like the name Bumblebee.
For some reason.
For some reason. I don't know, but he thought maybe a better name would be Toad.
He has the form of a green Volkswagen Beetle. Just down here.
That yellow Volkswagen named Bumblebee, it just didn't resonate with him.
Changed it.
We all saw the pink muffler last night, but we also could have gotten a green Toad. Question in the front row.
Not really a question. Toad, name Toad is just find so much Mario, just find it funny.
It is funny.
Yeah, and the character is supposed to be funny. That's Scott's vision for Bumblebee. Scott and Soroyan's vision for Bumblebee.
Yeah, he's the comic relief. Yeah.
He is the messenger and spy, which is Bumblebee's function, but apparently because they didn't have access to the Budiansky profiles, everybody's personality has changed. Prime and Megatron are Prime and Megatron because they're the goody leader and the baddie leader, and it's the 80s and it's a cartoon, so there's not going to be too much that's different. But Mirage is a flashy wisecracker. Trailbreaker loves Earth but misses Cybertron dearly. Jazz is impulsive and reckless.
And
Sideswipe is the big one. Sideswipe is a girl, and Sideswipe's in love with Optimus Prime.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating? So we got a question in the middle.
Do you think they ever had the idea in that budget that Toad might give you
I didn't hear.
If Toad would give you warts. I think Toad has enough problems of his own.
Well, Toad legitimately had lots of problems. He might need to turn into a robot for an emergency, but not be able to get one of his fingers to turn into a leg. So he has to comically hop around on one. That's the vision for the character.
If he's not running into things, he's running out of gas or getting speeding
Yeah,
tickets.
he's hard on his luck.
Because, yes, to be clear, the Autobots hear about this strange paranormal activity going on Earth and recognize the hand of the Decepticons at work. So they come to Earth and, I mean, it's not particularly clear why they choose to leave their own bodies, but
They do.
Yeah, it's not, it's never actually in the course of the narrative as written in the Bible. It's never said that they leave, but they do. And they possess Earth machines.
And Toad accidentally possessed a car that belonged to a young woman.
A beaten up, little old problem-ridden Volkswagen. It's not Toad's fault that he sucks. It's the car that he chose as his body is a little bit of a rattletrap that belongs to this girl named Wendy Fairchild.
And because the Autobots have a strong sense of morality, he has to function as her vehicle and get her to and from where she needs to go.
There's a note, I don't know if the file is in here, so if it shows up later, I'll point it out. There's a note, at one point, one consideration was that maybe Wendy was the daughter of a government official, and Toad purposefully took over her car as a sort of a means of spying, getting information on the governments of the planet. They didn't go through with that idea. She's just a normal girl from the Midwest, and he's just the crap car that belonged. And Optimus Prime, same story. He took over a truck belonging to a trucker named William Conroy,
Whose nickname was
Duke.
Duke. Wouldn't that be fun to have a Transformer running around with a guy named Duke?
Never heard of such a thing. He's a real salt-of-the-earth, common man kind of guy. He only had 3 payments left. He's compared to in the Bible as to Han Solo, a guy who is much more concerned with making a living than he is with saving the universe. So I don't know, I wonder if we have any of the dialogue documents. Oh, there's Sideswipe and with Optimus Prime. The deep love and admiration for Optimus Prime. Optimus may at times sense his love for Sideswipe, but Prime fears growing too attached to Sideswipe because he's seen many Autobots destroyed in his 3,000 years of fighting against the Decepticons.
I forgot that their superpower was a complex computer dashboard that can tap into any broadcast channel.
Oh yeah, because all the powers, the functions,
Yeah, everything's different.
none of it, just names and alt modes, that's all they had. What's next? Oh, and here's Mirage, a flashy wisecracker who is constantly making passes at Sideswipe. And constantly reminded by her that Optimus is her prime man. This is just some. We had a little fun with the art you saw last night. The fact is, if this had ever been made, if this had ever been made, it pretty much just looked like the G1 cartoon.
Almost certainly. They
Because
had
all
all
the
the
artwork had been done already.
Yeah, they would-
But this is some early version of Mirage that was created at some point, so we threw it in the art for fun.
So it's basically Sideman from Red Dead.
A bit, yeah. Yeah, what's next? Oh, and Ironhide, Prowl, and Ratchet were going to be in it, but they were just going to be guys in the background until maybe they were needed. There's
Just keeping their powder dry.
Yeah, just keep it. Yeah. More detailed information regarding Autobot identities, weapons, etc. is contained on individual bio cards to be included in subsequent draft, which does imply that it wasn't so much ignoring them as he genuinely hadn't got them yet. I think it's funny that he decided to make up all those roles and personalities for them when he was very aware of the fact that it could all be thrown out.
But he probably needed something to hang out on.
Something to spice things up for the network. Is the Decepticons next to the humans? I wonder.
Let's find out.
The humans. Here we go. Yeah. So it was Duke's truck that Optimus took over as his body. Damn! There goes my warranty," said Duke. He's the Han Solo. More important things to do than saving the universe, like making a living. Never stops letting Prime know he resents losing control of his truck.
And Optimus Prime quietly tolerates Duke's outbursts.
He knows the Duke is a valuable asset because Duke knows the roads, the places to hide. He's got that common sense understanding about Earth, and he's a good mechanic too. And he's a banterous Knight Rider-y kind of relationship with Optimus. He sits in his chest in battle and warns him not to get dented, not to get too banged up so that he's still got a working truck he can earn a paycheck with, stuff like that. It's quite fun, I think.
It is. You can see the energy that he's going for, the tone of the series.
I'll cream you if you dent my truck, you tin pirate, is all that you can think to say when the Autobots are battling the Decepticons.
Really interesting. I would love for it to be made into a cartoon.
I mean, if it's going to happen, it's going to be from fans like you.
Yeah, it's probably Wendy next. Oh no, jump into the Decepticons. We talked about Wendy already anyway.
So Wendy's not going to change that much.
No, Wendy pretty much stays the same all the way through. The Seekers are the three guys, but apparently not in the same way that he changed Bumblebee's color from yellow to green. Changes all the colors of the Seekers too. Thundercracker is red, Starscream is white instead of silver. Not a big change, but it is a change. And Skywarp is black, which at this point is a change.
Yeah, because the toy was the olive color.
Yeah, Hasbro were originally going to make Skywarp olive.
So I guess they like this change.
Maybe, yeah, that's it. It's like,
I can't trace it, but it's not impossible.
It's not impossible, I can't tell you, but yeah. But they're very unremarkable characters, like Thundercracker is stoic, and Skywarp is angry.
And Starscream, what's Starscream's doing?
Starscream's a girl! Because the network needed for there to be female characters, for this to be, a sellable product as far as they were concerned. They wanted the obligatory, how the system worked back then, one girl on each side. And Scott decided Sideswipe and Starscream would be the ones. And Starscream has a heat ray on one arm and a freeze ray on the other arm.
That's an idea we'll come back to.
And it's sound wave. Oh my goodness, excuse me, my voice.
Did they say F-16? I mean, they're F-15s, aren't they? How are they going to...
Yeah, right now, so that might just be a typo.
Yeah, I assume that's just an error, not
Yeah.
a change.
Yeah. It's Soundwave who is the Starscream in this. He is the one who believes he should be leader, who is always at odds with Megatron. But otherwise, it's, he turns into a boombox and it's all the same stuff as things. Oh, there we go, there's Starscream. Starscream, as her name implies, is a screamer. She is vicious in thought and action. Her synthesized robot voice crackling out at the others at the slightest provocation. And it is this very anger that fuels one of her two wing-mounted weapons. These are heat ray, freeze ray. Personal score to settle with Jazz, who destroyed her body back on their home planet. This was a real early color scheme for Starscream. You can see it there from the original 1984 adverts. All grey instead of red and blue. We used it for funsies. Just in case you were wondering. Real color scheme used for funsies. Yes, and the Decepticons have a human pal as well.
Yeah, Arthur Kroll, who honestly I find fascinating. So he's alternately described as what, Lex Luthor type, but also you get the sense he's a bit bumbling too, because he could never really make it on his own as a ordinary human, even ordinary human criminal.
He made a Faustian deal with Megatron. He'll help the Decepticons achieve their goal in every way. He knows how spying, intelligence, data, treachery. And all he asks in return is that he be able to rule over the humans once the Decepticons have enslaved them.
And Duke Conroy, he has a special distaste for traitors, like Arthur.
He loved to grind Kroll's gears. Not to get too off topic, but just as a point of context, they have likened him to the evil Lex Luthor. I'm sure many of you think Lex Luthor, evil businessman. That didn't exist yet. That wouldn't come into the comics until the mid-80s. So this is when Luthor was a mad scientist, free agent, not the famous evil businessman you may know him as. So don't put that out of your head when you're imagining a reference point. One of his special duties is to carry Megatron when he's in his pistol mode. So Megatron can get into places that would otherwise be impossible. Army bases, weapons arsenals, train stations. And here's a couple of story ideas that he had. What potential episodes set in this scenario could be. Because the through line of the series was, every episode would be about the Decepticons trying to steal or co-opt a new Earth machine to turn into a new Decepticon. So every episode would be about creating new generic Decepticons that would invariably be destroyed by the Autobots at the end of each episode, leaving only the toy characters surviving to carry the stories forward. Very, very heavily stressed at the top here. Transformers will be full half-hour episodes, not serialized, unlike the specials. No multi-parters, no continuing stories, nothing like that.
And I think the unlike the specials line is actually really important context, because again, it shows that they knew full well that there was going to be a three-part serialized special. So, you can see Arthur was going to play in, I think, what, 2 of the episodes, right?
I think so, yeah.
Rotten to the Core.
Yeah, that's right, too.
Yeah, where he learns about the new, Megatron learns about the New York City subway system, hundreds of train cars, decides to take control of the Big Apple. Which is funny, because that's going to show up in like 2 episodes if you want.
Yeah. Rotten to the Core, the Big Apple, the core, do you get it? Yeah, because the idea is that Megatron has this container that is holding all these other Decepticon energy orbs in reserve, in stasis.
Not sparks.
It's described at some point in here, I forget if it's in the handwritten notes or in the text of the Bible, that he transforms into cannon mode, pistol mode, beam mode, loads an orb and pushes it into vehicles to implant them. Rotten to the Core, they try to take over subway cars. The titanium germ, they try to take over oil platforms off the coast of Alaska, and Jazz comes into contact with an alloy that's foreign to the Autobots that infects and take over his system. Anything for a friend, the Decepticons go after a nuclear submarine, and Prime's energy orb leaves his truck form to take over a battleship so that they can go after it, but it puts his life at risk, and Duke must mind link with Prime to save him. Not on the front. Wendy was not conceived as being a character who would be maybe in every episode or always be in the action. Like Duke was supposed to be the main human ally who would go into action with them in Prime's chest every episode. Wendy is their civilian friend. So this would be this not on the first date would have been an episode where Wendy is about to go on her fist date with a nice boy from high school. When trouble arrives. So the Decepticons are going to break into the electronics factories of Japan and start transforming all sorts of gadgets into Decepticons. And basically Muffler has to go right then and there, so Wendy gets dragged along inside him to go on this mission.
He wrote this in 3 days.
3 days?
On a typewriter. I think we can forgive him a typo.
They could have word processed it. I don't know. They had those there.
Yes.
I wonder if the last one is... Oh yeah, and the last one's
Time for Trouble, because they want to take over a time machine. Yeah. Time transferred the time machine into an incredible Decepticon warrior robot. So I feel like that would be the standout episode of the season.
Of those 5, because I mean, you may notice a lot of these are kind of stock plotty. I think that's the end of the first Bible, right? Yeah.
So that was the initial vision. I do have a question on the right.
That's what we're going to talk about right now.
Yeah.
So this is Hasbro's, there's one handwritten. Oh yeah, up at the very top there. From Bob B, these are it. These are the names, these are the forms, no deviation, hesitation or repetition. These are what you have to stick to. This is just like something that was faxed over. It's not like direct correspondence, but I don't even know who Nick Field and Jim Engel are found that that's who this was being passed. Just so there is no confusion, please be advised of the following official names. So Scott,
Bumblebee.
are there any early names on here?
Jazz is down to 2 Z's.
Trailbreaker's still Trailbreaker's, not Guzzle. No, it's all finished names. This is after they lock them all up. No Blue Eye, no Spinach.
These are it.
Yeah, these are it. So, Bible finished. Scott sends it to Soroyan. Soroyan takes it both to CBS and to the representatives of Hasbro. They have separate conference calls with them to get their notes back on it. I think we have those next, probably. Yeah, here we go. So these are the conference call notes from Hasbro. Hank Soroyan went to the president of Hasbro, who was Stephen Hassenfeld at the time, and Jay Bacall and Tom Griffin, that's the heads of Griffin Bacall, who were Hasbro's advertising. They were the guys that had been contracted to help develop and advertise and sell Transformers.
And these really are the reasons that the Bible changes from the first draft to the second draft. And you can say that they're really big.
Yeah.
You know,
Now, and the thing that I love about these is, these are just the quick write-ups. So these do not convey tone. As it may or may, I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, but as it may or may not have been communicated in the course of a live conference call, where Hasbro reads a Bible that fully ignores the story they paid a company to write for them. And immediately says, get rid of the idea that Transformers are actually some kind of energy beings who take over robotic forms. Transformers are actually machines. You can turn them off and on like a light switch. Odd sentiment, because Scott was a slight step ahead of him in that regard. On their home world, Autobots and Decepticons transform into different objects. They're always robots, but on Earth they transform into Volkswagen Bugs and Porsches. On another planet it'd be something else. We don't need to address what. So they're fully like, take it back in there. Autobots get guidance from Teletran, who is located at their crash site. Hasbro thinks the Autobots and Decepticons crashed into a volcano.
Marvel prefers to base the Decepticons under the Bermuda Triangle. And of course, they would.
So this is Hasbro saying, get back on plan, please. Use the story that we have had made that is being used as the basis of the 3-episode miniseries. And then in answer to the question that was just asked,
if we're going to have female robots, I feel like that if might have gotten emphasized. Hasbro would prefer that we develop some originals, which could later be turned into toys if so desired. They don't like the idea of their boy robots acting like girls.
but they were open to original ones being included in the cartoon at least. Because they abandoned that premise of the Autobots taking over Earth vehicles,
They switched to the idea that Optimus Prime meets Duke in the desert, where Optimus Prime had been severely damaged, and Duke repaired it.
imagine that, a human mechanic finding a really badly damaged truck and it turns out to be Optimus Prime. Never heard of such a thing. And there's this odd note here at the bottom that says Wendy Fairchild name needs to be changed, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah, these are all, because these are contextless write-ups. And here's some other notes. It's much more pared down. Arrived on Earth as robots, energy orbs are just energy, not alike. I don't even know what that's supposed to really talk about.
Toad name is no good.
And this is what I think, and this is what's interesting about this, because it's devoid of context. What I assume is meant by Toad name is no good is Hasbro saying,
No, it's got to be
his
Bumblebee.
name is Bumblebee.
Yeah.
If that is the case, that's not enough information to give Scott to
Yeah,
tell
because
him.
they wrote that, and Scott obviously said, oh, okay.
Come up with something else there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Duke name, no good.
I can't imagine why. It's such a strong name for a, lead. We have a question in the middle.
Yeah, I was wondering, with Arthur 4, do you think that's content may have been revisited later in the Sunburst show we did get for Dr. Arthur there?
I think it's not impossible.
Yeah, no, I think it's entirely plausible that Arthur was a sort of prototypical version.
Yeah. Just in case anybody doesn't know, we're joking around here, but obviously Duke was the name of the lead hero in the G.I. Joe cartoon, so there was no way they were going to allow it to be used in this show as well.
And again, just to reiterate, they don't take over cars, they transform into cars. Hasbro had a very specific vision that they paid a lot of money for.
They throw a little note on here to say they want to make sure that any damage done in the course of the show is shown being repaired at the end, so that it doesn't look like permanently wrecking Earth.
I like to think there's a similar note somewhere in a G.I. Joe thing about they
Yeah.
must show the parachute if the plane gets
Yeah.
crashed.
Toys can't be female, develop new robots as female. Nice little note here. Volkswagen is a nerd, not a bad car. Again, I assume, in a toyetic manner of thinking, that's so that the Bumblebee toy, the Volkswagen toy, does not seem unappealing to kids by being presented as a crap car. So they want to make it so that Toad, or whatever you will be reading it, is a lovable dork whose klutziness, whose mishaps are the product of his own klutziness, not because the car itself is bad. It's an interesting look into the kind of mindset that shapes this.
Well, and likewise, I find it interesting the emphasis on Teletran, because that's right out of the pilot. But it's interesting that at such a corporate level, they wanted to stay consistent with that.
I mean, but these notes are clearly written by somebody who doesn't even know what that is. Teletran, Optimus Prime's computer. Prime, injured as robot, transforms into a truck as disguise. Guy comes by, tries to fix truck, needs a truck. Then truck turns into a prime robot. They strike up a relationship, a la Knight Rider. Teletran decides their cover should be road vehicles. It's that's a bit of a word salad, but you get the sentiment that's going on behind it.
If you have the context.
I think the next one should be.
We have somebody who really wants to ask a question.
Speaking of the Duke and Optimus relationship, I've noticed, you know that Diaclone do have drivers in there. Was Hasbro intending to sell the Diaclone drivers along with the figures?
You gotta fully separate the idea of the toys and this from your mind. This is not made with any access to anything other than what the names of what they turned into.
Yeah, no, I think those are totally separate.
It's a fun coincidence.
Yeah, that they might have a driver.
This person over here sat there and that for a while.
Was there a reason why the muffler didn't have a head?
We'll come to muffler in a minute, yeah. As we go into the second Bible. So these are the notes from CBS. And CBS, so we don't have exact dates on these. This particular meeting took place on the 1st of March. So, within a week of the Bible coming in. I presume the Hasbro one came first because Hasbro have enforced a hard change on the base premise. And it seems that in conversation with, are the names on here anywhere? Maybe on the next one. Judy Price, Ted Field, and Michael Cassett over at CBS. Soroy in his conference call with them, they lock in what the show is going to be about instead. It's going to be set 5 years later, after More Than Meets the Eye.
Yeah, which, again, we don't have specific reason to believe beyond this document, but our assumption is that this is to smooth over any inconsistencies with the syndicated version that's not finalized at this point.
Yeah. I think Blue might have had all 3 scripts in even by the 3rd of March. We don't have hard dates.
Yeah, but they certainly wouldn't have been.
Because they haven't been redrafted to add Shockwave or anything like that at this point. Second bullet point, no Teletran. The CBS don't want Teletran to be in the show. Robots are all computerized, don't need him, too confusing. He was destroyed by the Decepticons.
That feels like a very network note, doesn't it?
Yeah, like the kids will be too confused by the idea that the robots who all have computer brains have a computer already anyway.
And now we get to the real nuts and bolts. Decepticons have taken over and rule the Earth, or at least the parts they need. They outnumber the Autobots.
So we will be restating some of what you heard last night if you were here, but obviously all of you weren't, so we will go through it all again. 5 years later, the Decepticons have conquered the Earth. They've repurposed all of the major factories and manufacturing centers of the world and turned humankind into a massive slave labor force to constantly manufacture dozens, scores, hundreds, millions of new Decepticons. I didn't see them on any of the pages we had. The reference points for the first Bible draft were Invasion of the Body Snatchers and the 1960s TV show The Invaders, stories about aliens coming to Earth and taking on the forms of humans to hide among them, or in this case, their machines. But those ideas are out the window because we're not doing that.
Bigger. The comics are War of the Worlds in terms of the people being oppressed by this alien invader. 1984, they're really going for the idea that the Decepticons could be anywhere. As I said last night, they could be the lights in this room. They could be the mic that I'm holding. They don't know.
Their own car. So even people in their day-to-day lives, dare not speak out against the Decepticons.
Yeah, the kids at home could be surprised and suspicious of everything. Yeah, it's really dark.
Because humans still live their lives to make things so that life on the planet can continue. The Decepticons have allowed the economy to continue.
In some areas, it's life as usual.
It's just that humans all work in factories now. But the other way, they still go to their jobs, they still go to school. Is it on any of these particular ones? The Decepticons, Nazis, coal, polish, steel, perfect. Megatron, De Fuhrer, all other Decepticons are lower in rank. It's full-on life in Europe at the dawn of World War II.
And that's still
what it's going for.
It's still Megatron.
It's still Megatron at this point at these notes. I see someone standing. He must have a very intense question.
Sorry, Ed. Going back to Arthur Kroll just a minute, they make a comparison to Lex Luthor in the notes. I'm wondering if maybe they were thinking more of Bruno Banheim and Intergang, from just happened in the 70s.
I think that's probably too specific to expect from these guys. You gotta remember, these guys aren't dorks. They aren't nerds. They don't know this stuff.
They're probably closer to that kind of archetype.
Thuggish. It's life, so the big reference points were the Worlds in 1984, but also, of course, Star Wars has only been out for a couple of years. So the Autobots are Star Warsian. They're the scrappy band of rebels fighting against the fascist empire that controls the world.
Star Warsian, now that's an adjective that we shouldn't take.
All one word. This would all be explained in the main title sequence again. There wouldn't be any introductory episode telling the story of how this happened. We'd just do a hard 5-year jump and explain it in the opening sequence.
And some of this stuff, it does kind of feel familiar to the jump we got from syndication to regular. Autobots do not fly.
Yes.
Can't fly, period. Except when robotic leaps and propulsions. Megatron, non-robot form, is a laser tank.
So
with treads.
It's not stated in as many words, but limitations is the header. So it certainly sounds that CBS did not want Megatron to be a gun. A laser tank with treads, etc. Soundwave is, in the first Bible, Scott talks about how Megatron and Soundwave change size. They don't want the guns, so they're not interested there. And Soundwave, they don't want Soundwave to change size. He's just a large ghetto blaster who transforms into an 8-foot tall robot. That's what CBS wants.
And for this series, here we go.
Female Decepticon, amphibious flying craft, submarine, and female Autobot, motorcycle. So in the CBS notes, they decide what they're going to turn into, then they fire that over to Scott. And you can see in his handwritten notes here, he's named the female Decepticon Whirlpool, and the female Autobot has 2 suggested names, Fire Cycle or Fire Wheels. They're just totally original characters. Let's see.
Backstory on the Turtles, VW. Yeah.
Again, that's what we were talking about Toad earlier on.
Yeah. He's not a bad car. He's a nerd.
He's just a dork. They want to really stress. They're very interested in Poltergeist. That's only a year or 2 old as a film. I watched that film for the first time a couple of nights ago, just as research.
He's hardcore.
It's a good film. I guess. I guess it was in the zeitgeist at the time. So it's not like the stories are going to stress relevance.
No. These are just the
finding these ideas that are out there in the thought sphere.
I like that the dog was a network node too.
Yeah, well, that's no great surprise at all. So yeah, they say Wendy and her family live in suburban tract housing like the family in Poltergeist. They compare Wendy to the teenage girl in Poltergeist, and like the family in Poltergeist, they're going to give her a little brother, who is your scrappy new type, the full energy little kid, the Miko of the group, who's always throwing himself into adventures, absolutely heedless of the danger he's throwing himself into.
You can easily imagine him with like 3 eggs in his pocket, right?
And also, yes, the trucker will have a dog, a German Shepherd.
Who can sniff out the difference between a Decepticon besides there's a jukebox and a real jukebox? It's all right here.
Then this is a summary of all that. I don't think there's anything new in this anyway. Well, we move Megatron to being a self-propelled particle beam tank with treads. Soundwave doesn't change size. Other Decepticon jets are about 8 feet tall. I mean, that simply makes no sense at all.
Yeah, clearly they'd be like 20 feet tall.
And there's a lovable robot nerd Volkswagen. So with all these notes in hand, Scott's going to on a second draft of the Bible.
Do we have a date on this one?
Oh, yeah. It's I think it's the 8th of. We don't have the cover screen here anyway. Something like the 8th of March. It's like a week later.
He's fast.
Yeah. Well, he has to be. That's the pace these things we're looking at. So anyway, this part just describes the Transformers history as we know it. 4 million years ago, Cybertron, war, crashed into a volcano, awoke on Earth, etc., etc.
I gotta say, beyond the content of the Bible, I love how much sizzle he puts in. Go back to the slide. Like you read, like it's in this vaguely in universe format. Autobot historical archive, subject, early Decepticon Wars, time frame, pre-Terran period. I love that he's putting in that effort. You know, it's not dry. You know, he knows his audience has to be engaged. You know, it's written to be read.
The news items in the first Bible, he goes, this is more like a computer record of the history of the Transformer.
And it's going back 15 billion years, just about.
At the opposite end of the galaxy, known as the Milky Way, a solar system, much like the solar system of Sol, spins around a dense neutron star.
He kept his neutron star idea.
And then this explains the current setup. The Decepticons approximately 1988, which is certainly only 4 years later, not 5, but it was very early 1984. You probably just hadn't remembered to start changing the
approximately 1988. 1989 is
approximately 1988.
Question in the front row.
There's a question about Wendy. Did they change her into Charlie or the Carly, or do they have nothing to do with each other?
That's what I was saying earlier on about how fascinating it is about how later writers would come to the same. The question there was whether Wendy directly inspired Charlie in the Bumblebee movie, right?
Carly.
Carly in...
Oh, Carly! I beg your pardon, I thought you said Charlie, because obviously, very much like Charlie in the Bumblebee movie. Probably not, no, Earl Kress created Charlie in late 84, early 85, independently off his own back in a script he was writing. I think he was based on a woman he knew called Carly.
Yeah, it was a real person.
So yeah, nothing to do with each other.
Yeah, and of course Charlie, they had, the people writing the Transformers had no access to this.
There is a tendency, I find, when we talked about the movie script those years ago, there's a tendency among fans to sort of jump to the conclusion that there's a secret archive of all this stuff at Hasbro that the people who make Transformers get to see, and therefore they must have seen it and taken that idea years later. Nobody knew about this. The 6 people whose names were on these documents are basically it.
I promise you, the only reason I have a job making Transformers books is because I'm really good at ferreting out this material. Hasbro does not have it until I have it, and then I give it to them.
So this is the story. The Decepticons have taken over the governments and economies of all industrialized nations, labor force, taken all over manufacturing plants, constructing new Decepticons. The people of Earth live in a virtual slave society, but Negator, leader of the Decepticons, evil genius that he is, has allowed the economy to continue so that humans can trade among themselves and thus maintain their food and shelter and basic survival needs.
Yeah, so now we've switched over from Megatron to Negator, and again, we don't
There's
have
nothing in the notes about it.
Yeah, we
should draw conclusions.
Yeah, but I mean, again, just reading very slightly between the lines, it is very clear that CBS is not going to put a handgun on TV. And our thought process about the most likely course of events is that Hasbro said, well, if he's not going to turn into a handgun, he's not Megatron. Yeah. So they needed a new character.
A bit like, again, what we assume we don't know, but like what happened with Skyfire and Jetfire. They changed Jetfire's design so it no longer resembled a toy. Well, it's not Jetfire anymore. It's
But
Skyfire.
close enough that if you're an 8-year-old kid, your mind is going to fill in the gaps. You know, a similar design, a similar name, a similar role, and there you are.
The core cast remains the same. Optimus, Trailbreaker, Jazz, Mirage, all with their personalities now updated to match Buddy Ansky's profiles. And the Volkswagen is still here, but Jeffrey Scott, having been told that Toad's no good, goes, all right, Muffler.
Muffy to his friends.
And here we see Wendy, and Matt, and Eddie, and so we don't know, we presume this is probably it. These 4 pieces were produced again to accompany the second Bible as a sort of pitch document to sell tone. Because despite what a sinister premise, Decepticons as the Nazis ruling over the world, they've gone for a very goofy tone. Muffler, you're yelping in fear, your little dance, giving flowers. And yeah, okay, obviously, right, there was a mention of GoBots, or Muffler's head a minute ago there. I mean, that's not Bumblebee. We don't know who drew this, but they clearly didn't have reference to the Bumblebee toy. Now, yeah, this looks a heck of a lot like the Super GoBot Bug Bite. Although he didn't exist yet, that toy wouldn't come out till later in '84. but the original machine robo transforming Volkswagen was released in Japan the previous year. And it's not a perfect match. It has big similarities. It's got the hood chest. It's got the windscreen eyes. It's not a convertible, but it's the arms. They both end in those claws, and they both have those 3 notches cut into the forearm. That you kind of have to wonder if somehow the guy who drew these did wind up with reference material of the wrong transforming yellow Volkswagen.
I mean, there absolutely were import stores in New York where you could get these toys.
But regardless of that, I mean, the key thing to understand is, if the show had been made, even if this plan had gone ahead, it wouldn't have looked like this.
No, I can't even imagine it would have been Muffler, I'm sure.
Oh no, it would have changed Bumblebee. There's no way it would have. Yeah, these wouldn't have made it through. Because you just have to assume it was improperly explained to Scott, and he went off down the garden path and did his own thing here. They had all the animation models done and everything. More Than Meets the Eye was already happening. The animation models were created at the end of the previous year, when we revised early in the year. It wouldn't have looked like this. But of course, when we did the art, we made Muffler look like this, of course.
This is Jeffrey Scott's vision.
Oh yeah. Is it Muffler's bio next? Here he is.
There we go.
You may ask why he's pink. Well, it's because his bio here, which is not a rewritten version of Bumblebee's bio. Even though the character is still meant to be Bumblebee, the Autobot's little Volkswagen spy and messenger, this is not a rewritten version of Bumblebee's profile. It is all new. And first line, Muffler has the form of a yellow Volkswagen Beetle. Transform up there. Volkswagen Beetle, pink. You know, he transformed into something he thought would blend right in, a pink Volkswagen Beetle. So even this document is inconsistent about what color Muffler is. But it tells us the story of how, on Decepticon-controlled Earth, Muffler is on the run and hides in a used car lot by transforming into a pink Volkswagen. The Decepticons fly right on by, but Wendy spots this darling little car and buys it. And Muffler doesn't have the heart to run out on her, so he decides to stay and beat her car when he's not in action.
Oh, we're back to him comically hopping around on one leg.
Yeah, they keep that stuff, but it's not because the car sucks, it's because he sucks. And Muffy is his nickname. Wendy calls him Muffy, a nickname Muffler feels is better suited to a dog. Next.
There we go.
And this is our replacement lady. No sideswipe. We have Fire Cycle. Now, before we get into the profile, once again, this is an original character design created by Ed Perry. Nothing was ever designed for Fire Cycle. Ed found this. He doesn't know what it is. If any of you know what it is, let us know. He thought it would be a good base for a Fire Cycle design and drew it up into this. Fire Cycle's personality, she's a medic. Perhaps the most level-headed next to Optimus Prime. She's a medic mechanic, master electromechanical surgeon who can skillfully laser stitch even the most severe Autobot wounds.
And he's brought back his idea of a heat ray on one side and a zero-K blaster on the other.
Take it in from Starscream.
He would really like that. We have a question way in the back. Way in the back.
Jim, got one of you first?
Oh.
Left-hand side?
Sure.
Oh yeah. You were saying about Megatron and all negated, they were funny about him being a gun. I know there was an issue in America where they didn't want him to be a gun anymore, he's no longer a gun, but this seems like that predates that. So yeah. what was the issue with him being a pistol initially with this draft?
Well,
so network, and I've heard the creators talk about this in other contexts, but the networks had very specific rules for what could and couldn't be on their programming, especially for children's television. And the idea, I mean, you never would show blood, you had to be really careful how you depicted violence. Any imitatable act would be a problem. And the handgun probably, it's problematic in its own right, but I mean, the idea of an imitatable act, I mean, Negator is going to be shooting at Autobots. That is almost the definition of an imitatable act. And they didn't want to get sued.
And that was one of the benefits of syndication, was they didn't have a network breathing down their neck to tell them things like that. There's an article in Comics Feature Magazine, I don't know if we have it in here, might come to it later, but I'll just sum it up for now. There's an article on Marvel Productions, and it's got a little chat from Bryce Malek, one of the editors of the Transformers cartoon, and he is talking with glee about about how violent they're allowed to make the cartoon because they're not doing it for a network.
And because they're robots.
Yeah, they can get away with anything. They're all freaks.
It's great. We have time for a question in the back, and we'll keep going.
So, you said Hasbro was okay with them making original female?
Yeah. Well, I'm not even sure they...
I wasn't done. What I was saying was that you said Hasbro was okay with making original female characters, but these characters never appeared in the show. Why is that?
Well, they never made the show, did they?
Yeah.
These characters...
Hasbro didn't want to have things that weren't in the toy line in the show. The network was making them have icky girls.
Yeah, I think when you're saying Hasbro was okay with it, like Hasbro was sort of reluctantly okay with if you must have a female
Okay,
character,
in the sense of, okay.
then make some new ones, but don't do it with our toys.
Yeah, they didn't make it into the show because there weren't our 5-minute warning.
we got some time. We got about 15 minutes.
Half an hour, yeah.
15 minutes.
My goodness, speed it up here then. So yeah, the Fire Cycle has the personality plan for Sideswipe. Except for she's the medic. She's not a pacifist, but
she doesn't even want to walk on grass for fear she will hurt this strange green life form. I love that.
She sounds like Twitch on steroids.
The Decepticons often trap her by feigning pain or wounds, thus playing to her medical oath to do all in your power to help all things to survive.
I mean, honestly, this is a great character.
Yeah, and she's in love with Optimus Prime, and she's the best one, and she's got fire and ice, and she can go over 150 miles per hour, and she's got a rocket engine. She's got a sword.
Are you saying there's something wrong with my girl Mary here?
But seriously, if anybody knows what this toy is. And on the Decepticon side, while they dropped Sideswipe, they didn't drop Starscream. They put him back into the way Buddy Ansky had intended for him. And
I thought we were going to
go straight to her.
We're going to go Negato instead.
I mean, he's just Megatron. He is. This again, original design. This one's by Andy Turnbull. It's the early Megatron design, from the earliest commercials and the first couple of issues of the Marvel Comics. Dressing up with a couple of satellite panels because he turns into it. That was the finalized mode Scott settled on.
Can transform into a satellite particle cannon, which, if you remember, was right in the first Bible as what was taken over by that energy war.
It was a particle beam. It wasn't a satellite in the first.
It was just a particle beam.
Just a particle beam.
Oh no, good
for a satellite now. Yes.
Well,
for mobility.
Because you could fly around.
Yeah. And it's funny. Unlike all the others, which truly are just Buddy Ansky's bios with a couple of words maybe changed or added here and there, this is Megatron's Buddy Ansky bio, but it's like every sentence is reworded to say the same thing in different words. But he's very much just Megatron in the serial numbers filed off. I think before we sat down and read this...
Yeah, well, at first we thought maybe it was a new character, I thought maybe it was Shocker, but then reading all the memoranda, it's clear it's Megatron, and then you get to hear it and it's become Negator.
There's even the mention of the interdimensional, the black hole, the antimatter, it's all in there. No, I think thanks to this.
Surely the world.
Yes. Yes. The original lady created for the Decepticon side. Original design by Ed Perry again here. So, a quote. Let's hear it. She's my favorite of all these. It's 1984 and Jeffrey Scott's leapt ahead to quadruple changing. She transforms into a hovercraft, an amphibious assault vehicle that can go over land and sea. She can pop rotor blades to turn into a helicopter. Really? The other two modes are modifications of the hovercraft mode. She pops rotors to turn into a helicopter, and she sprouts diving things to turn into a submarine. So she can do land, air, and on and under the ocean. She can create whirlpools with her rotors, and she fires implosion torpedoes that suck in and super condense anything in their blast radius.
She can charm even an Autobot into thinking that she is a friend. So, I love the idea of this defector.
Yeah, she's a bit femme fatale-ish, but not, it doesn't go all the way with it,
Yeah, no, but I mean, there's so many echoes, in Black Arachnia in terms of this portrayal. And again, completely coincidental, but same minds, different minds going to the same place.
So the conceit behind Whirlpool is that she used to be an Autobot, but she switched sides to join the Decepticons. Where is it? No, it starts out poorly, I think. She has a special connection to Optimus Prime. And I admit, when I read that first, I kind of rolled my eyes because I'm like, okay, we've created two new girls, and they're both defined by their relationship to Optimus Prime. I'm like, well, it is the 80s. What are you going to do?
But he wants to reform her, and she wants to destroy him to prove to herself she's made the right call.
To prove to herself once and for all that her decision to join the Decepticons was the correct one. She wants to destroy Optimus Prime to validate like the massive change she made to her life. And the only way she can do that is by killing a guy.
And she will often risk more important missions to complete this obsession of hers.
I find her she compels me, Jim.
I really like Firecycle.
I want to see Firecycle and Whirlpool become the next Reels. I want to see art, I want to see people talking about them.
Make it happen. Make it happen. We have about 10 minutes. How are we doing?
Well, I think that's pretty much the subject Bible, barring...
I just really like the format. And he goes, at the end of the Bible, he goes through some more of the specific plot points that you'll encounter, like how they interact with energy, how transformation works.
How their voices work, their voices will come over the
camouflage. I don't think we've talked about this as much as maybe we could, but Jeffrey Scott really leans into the idea of camouflage.
That's what fascinates me about the whole thing.
Yeah, by having, millions of Decepticons that could be anyone, they really lean into that idea of, the Autobots are hiding from the Decepticons because they've ruled everything. The Decepticons hide from the Autobots and humans because it gives them tactical advantage. And then Scott goes into 13 episodes, many of which are recycled from before.
Yes, he came up with a few first time, but this time he comes up with a full run of 13 story ideas. We do the subway cars, we do the oil plant.
All the same ones, right?
Even though, now the setting of the show is not one in which the Decepticons but that's not the point of the Decepticon stories anymore. So I think he just, he just notes it. Further Decepticon goals. Oh yeah, they're also trying to turn the machines of Earth into Decepticons as well, even though they're building new ones everywhere. Just so that those stories will continue to work. Does the oil platforms one? Does the time machine one?
Oh, this one's so tropey. I like this one.
Yeah, Optimus is captured by Negator, strips his memory tapes, acquiring Autobot secrets. Matt Conrad must risk his life to free his robot friend and steal back the Optimus memory tapes. Here's one where Negator wants to cut the Autobots off from their fuel supply. One where Negator discovers he can turn earth coal into diamonds, which he can make an alloy to make the Decepticons indestructible. But, oh no, the Eastern Seaboard is facing the worst winter in decades, and the Autobots must save the coal so that people can have warmth.
Nobody home.
Wendy and Eddie's parents, they come home one day and they're gone. Turns out they've been taken away to a labor camp to build a new kind of Decepticon. They got to rescue them.
Intergalactic warship.
Yeah, that's when they finished their first spaceships to spread out across the universe, so Autobots have to stop them. This one is a kind of a Wild West spy mashup, where the Autobots are going to intercept a shipment of Decepticon components, Decepticon optical sensors.
Not on a first date, still here?
Yeah, that's still there. I like the optical sensors one. They're going to hijack that shipment of Decepticon optical sensors, but a Decepticon disguised as a beaten-up car overhears their plan, and they got to stop him from getting back. And they call that one the Robot with 1,000 Eyes. Our robot's best friend is his dog, a story in which Bert's ability to sniff out Decepticons annoys Negator enough that he wants that dog. A story about how Muffler gets captured, the Autobots rescue him, but it seems like it's a bit too easy, and then things start going wrong among the Autobot ranks. There's a traitor in their midst. Everyone starts to doubt one another, but of course, Muffler's secretly been replaced by a Decepticon who isn't a big klutz, which is what gives him away. It's because he's not screwing up, so they realize it's not him. And the final one, where the Autobots are all very badly damaged and there aren't enough medical supplies to fix them all, one of them is going to die. And Optimus says it's going to be me. Everyone else will live, but I'll die for everyone else. And it's sort of like it's about fire cycles, tortured relationship, because she's going to have to be the one to treat everybody else and make that choice to leave him to die. And they got to find a solution to the story.
A relatively weighty season finale for, again, a fairly tropey season.
Yeah, these are quite light stories, despite an even a very dark and sinister premise.
It's much more so than what we ultimately would get.
It's all a bit goosebumps. Yeah. Who's this next guy? I think it's probably...
And really briefly, the way we found this, and I talked about this a little bit last night, is I'm involved with a group called the Sunville Marvel Archives, and we scour the web looking for these sort of documents. Sometimes we're reaching out to creators, but these just showed up on eBay. Yeah. We crowdfunded them. We reached out to people who in the past said that they'd like to help this happen. We pulled together a small pile of money. We bid, we won, and we got, they were all separate auctions. So we got one of everything, and we got the better version, because sometimes Scott would sell off 3 copies of the script, but one of them had the handwritten notes, and I always got the one with the handwritten notes, because it gave us the most insight into the process. And there's well more beyond this. There's a beat out line for Robot's best friend is his dog with handwritten notes, and you can see him rearranging the plot. If you're interested in process,
let's hit it just a minute or two to wrap up here quickly. So I think we have like a minute. So he writes the second Bible, handed in early March. There's enough approval that he's given the task of writing a pilot script. We have all of the basic outline, the breakdown, all the various stages of how you write a script. Script, which is what you heard last night, is turned in at the very end of March, the 29th of March. That's it. Nothing happens after that. And why it doesn't happen, we don't really know. We don't know if CBS passed. I think it's more likely Hasbro decided we're going to go syndication on this.
What we do know is the timing of some of the personnel movements.
Yes, in April, within weeks of that being handed in, we don't know the exact date in April, but in April, David DePatie out at Marvel Productions, a lady named Margaret Loesch in. And in the course of her tenure, she really helps repair the relations between Marvel Comics and Marvel Productions. She's an ex-executive producer at she's ex-Hanna-Barbera staff. And when she comes over to Marvel Productions from Hanna-Barbera, she brings with her 2 writers called Bryce Malek and Dick Robbins, who are originally working at Hanna-Barbera. And they are immediately put to work writing a treatment or coming up with some developmental ideas for the Transformers cartoon, which has, by this point already, within a week or 2, after all of this has been done, been decided, no, we're going syndication instead. End of April, Malek and Robbins send their notes in. They do see these documents, they do read them, it's like, that's probably why the Decepticons have an underwater base in the finished cartoon, because of the Bermuda Triangle thing. The most interesting thing is that's why Bumblebee is a main cast member of the G1 cartoon. Yeah. In the original pilot miniseries, Bumblebee is not the human friend character. No, that is Hound. But in the first episode, under Malek and Robbins, in the new direction, following on from their reading of Scott's documents, now the yellow Volkswagen Autobot is the human friend character, like he was supposed to be in these 2 earlier Bibles. So there are the tiniest threads of ideas carry through, but largely
they went in their own direction.
Went in a cupboard and forgotten, with only the tiniest little references to it being made here and there for 25 years, from between 2000 and 2009. 2009, we learned there was a little piece of internal Marvel Productions correspondence from Malek and Robbins that mentioned Eddie and Matt by name.
Yeah, which I immediately put into a book.
Yeah, snuck that into the Allspark Almanac. And then another decade later, those pieces of muffler art were found. 2 of those pieces of muffler art were published in the aforementioned Comics Feature magazine in the article about Marvel Productions. But it didn't say they were Transformers. It said they belonged to a show named Car and Cable, which didn't exist.
Yeah, as far as we know, it was either a code name or something that they just made up in order to publish the art without, giving away that it was from a project that wasn't going forward.
It wasn't suspicious. This article was published in 1985, so it wasn't suspicious for 30 years because the article is full of art for other Marvel Productions cartoons that were never made. So we just assumed for as long as we did that Car and Cable was just another unproduced Marvel Productions show, probably conceived to ride the wave of 80s robot mania. But then, consumer collectibles, the Instagram newsroom, you saw those nice full-size monthly artwork, found more pieces that proved, no, they were connected to Transformers. But it was still, exactly what they were was still vague. And I guess, as I said, I did a presentation about some of this stuff 5 years ago. I really started to doubt that even some of the vague connections I'd drawn were accurate. And then Jim pings up on my WhatsApp and goes, I got something for you. He knew it had been a white whale of mine for years. And I was like, oh my God, there it is. Muffy, right there in the Transformers document. It was all along. It really was exactly what we thought it was, but so much more.
I mean, for us, I think it would be accurate to describe this as a grail. So it's really satisfying to find it, and it's really satisfying to share it with all of you. And I think that's about as much time as we have for this.
I will have a video about this coming out soon on my channel as well. So, not in the TFN art, I'm not using it in the art that's been made for TFNation. It's just some of my own other observations and connections and a slightly more leisurely pace to the information. So, you can check that out as well, guys, if you want to learn more and refresh yourselves. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yourselves a couple of minutes and we will be right back with our voice actors on stage. Thank you.